Hi, it's Mike with AskTractorMike.com. Every now and again I get a letter from a viewer and my initial reaction is, ugh. And I got one of those today, and this letter comes from David. And David says, hello, I have a Bush Hog Model 296 6-foot single spindle cutter. It's similar to my Brush Hog, only it's the next heavier version. So it's a pretty good cutter, higher intermediate cutter. And he says, I have a question. Last fall I hit a rock and the pan area where the blades bolt on is now dented/bent. Just a little bit, but the blade binds and will not rotate fully or easily. The blades still move, but not correctly. My question is, can the pan and the blade support be straightened and still keep the balance needed not to wear on the shaft? I priced a new one and they're $1,060 plus freight. Ugh. Ugh. The other part to my question is, how do I remove the pan from the Bush Hog in a safe manner? I have a bucket on my tractor, so there's no problem to lifting the unit up to remove the nut. But now, is that the best way to remove the pan assembly from the shaft? Any thoughts or help on this situation would be much appreciated. Oh, David. Oh, man. The more I think about this, the less I like your situation and your chances of this being successful. But we're going to talk today about the blade pan assembly, or stump jumper in this case, and we'll talk about what that is. You know, there's two components on a Bush Hog or Brush Hog or rotary cutter, whatever you want to call it, that if you damage them, it almost makes the thing a boat anchor, especially if it's older. And that is the gearbox, which we all spend a lot of time thinking about and trying to protect, but then that stump jumper underneath. Well, let's go under the machine and I'll show you what a stump jumper looks like. And I think you have three options, and we'll talk about which one's the best and show you what's involved in taking that thing off. Let's go down. All right, David. First off, get on a concrete surface, back your tractor up, lift up the Brush Hog, put jack stands under it. We don't want it falling on you. Get a piece of cardboard or a tarp or something to sit on because you're going to be underneath it for a while. I've never actually taken one of these things off, and this is what we're talking about right here. This is a blade pan, or stump jumper is another name for it, and you're going to want to take that off. What's happened, he's hit something and it's bent it, and it's making the blade not swing, and these blades kind of need to swing while they're cutting. So how these things come off is you've got a castle nut under here on most machines, and a castle nut is it looks like a castle, and it's got a cotter key that goes through it to keep it from coming off. So you're going to take the cotter key off, and then I hope, David, you've got air impact wrenches or electric impacts of some sorts, because those nuts are torqued on to, I want to say, 450, 500 pounds, foot-pounds of torque. So it's going to be really tough to get it off with hand tools. You're going to need some kind of help to get it off. But let's say you get that off. Now, on this cutter, this is the next size down from David's cutter. This doesn't weigh that much. David's cutter, the stump jumper alone, just this plate, weighs 118 pounds. So if you get that nut off and that thing comes down, it's going to come down with a force, because that's not even including the blades or the bolts. So you got to be kind of ready. And you may want to put a floor jack underneath it just so it doesn't drop on you. But that's what you do. You take that nut off, and then you hope that thing comes down. Now, if it doesn't come down, you need to use a specialty tool to get that thing off there. And that is called a 5-foot pipe and a sledgehammer. So you're going to put the pipe in the hole in the deck on top of the stump jumper, pound it, turn the stump jumper, pound it again, and keep pounding. And when I worked in the dealership world, I could always tell when someone was having trouble getting one of these blade pans off, because all of a sudden you hear bang, bang, bang. And shop guys, I found, love to make a lot of noise. Those of us that were in the front office in the sales world could hear it really good in our offices. And they would pound on those things, and you really need someone to hold the pipe while you pound on it. And that could be your wife or your best friend, depending on whether you want a divorce or a lawsuit if you miss. But in the shop, usually the rookie shop guy got to hold the pipe, and the experienced shop guy came down on that and tried to pound that blade pan off. It made a lot of noise, but the real noise was when it came off, because it would drop to the floor with the blades on and just make a tremendous racket. That's if you're lucky. A lot of times it took hours and hours of pounding, at least it seemed like it, to get it off. And I would see the shop guys after they tackled a project like that all covered with sweat. It is not an easy job. So you take it off, try to straighten it, put it back on, and hope it's in balance. Now, I've never heard of anybody doing that. That's option one. I don't think that's the best option. I see two really dangerous things happening here. Number one, if you get it bent back the right way and you put it back on and it doesn't wobble much, what's happening to the shaft up here after you get it back on? Because if it's just a little out of balance, it may be wallering the splines off the shaft. And then to fix that, you've got to replace the gearbox and the stump jumper, and you basically turned your cutter into a boat anchor. Now, if you happen to get it back up there and it doesn't work, and I mean you're getting vibration, and there's a very good chance that will happen, and you'll feel it in the tractor seat when you engage the PTO, then you got to go through this whole process again of getting that off, and you still got to pay $1,000 plus to get a new stump jumper to go back up there, and you're back where you started. So option number two is you take it to a dealership and tell them to fix it. And I told David this. David revealed to me he's about 10 years older than I am. And I'm getting to the age where wrestling around a 118-pound blade pan and trying to get it off with a sledgehammer is not my idea of a good time. And I want to maintain good relations with my dealer, and I'm willing to take it to them and spend the money to get it off. And I know it's expensive, but the hospital bills, if you hurt yourself, if it falls on you, if the cutter falls on you, or if you throw your back out, could be way more than the amount of money and labor it costs to fix it. And if the dealer fixes it and something goes wrong, it's on them to make it right. You could be wallering around this blade pan for days, David. So I would probably look at taking it to the dealership. Now, a lot of that depends on what kind of shape your cutter's in. If your cutter's beat up and close to the end and the blades are worn and the gearbox is, iffy, it might be time to just throw in the towel and trade, and that's option number three. And option number three, take it to the dealership, tell them what happened underneath. I always tell people, don't lie to your dealer, they'll find out, and then they'll never trust you again. Tell them what's going on with the blade pan. It'd make a good project for them to fix it in the winter and resell it to somebody else and make money on it, and you get a new cutter and go back to the field. But those are your three options. Take it down, try to fix it, which I don't think is a good idea. And I would invite you, if you've tried to do that to one of these, tried to bend them back and make them right, let us know what happened, because I've not known anybody that's tried that. That's pretty heavy metal right there. It might be bent out, but keeping it in balance is the issue. And the second option is to take it to the dealership, have them fix it, and that's probably the option I would go with. And the third option is just trade it in and be done. Lastly, David, let's not let this happen again. Whatever you hit in the field, I hope you know where it is, and let's mark it or take it out. If it's you said it was a big rock, let's get it out of the ground, get it out of there, and then let's mow just a little bit higher. If you can mow at 4 inches or 5 inches, you'll still get a pretty cut. You won't hit as many rocks and hopefully won't do as much damage. Thanks for watching my videos.